So I shared kind of like, I don't want to say an aha moment, but like my reflection moment yesterday when I was doing some of my work for Module 1. So I figured it was only appropriate to share my like reflection moment of putting together Module 2 for the Fresh Start 2026 course. So, little recap, Module 1 is talking about reclaiming the vision of who you are outside of like the titles, right? Like, so that you can make more clearer, intentional goals, but also be able to like know what you want in life. So, Module 2 is all about values and identity mapping. We talk about core values. We talk about who you are now versus who you want to be, and aligning your goals with your identity. Like, not like the visual things, like the visual features, but like who you are as a person. So tonight, while I was working on Module 2, my kind of like aha moment, like I said, they've got me kind of reflecting a lot in my life as to who I am and what has shaped me into being the person that I am. And as far as like a mom, a daughter, like all of these titles that I do have. So let's, I guess, talk about it. Let me pull up what I started putting together so I can really just like, sorry, I have a hair and it's driving me nuts. So module, oops, wrong thing, that's why, sorry. Because I'm a like huge notes person. Like, someone's gonna look at my stuff and be like, what in the world is this that you got going? Like, everything is like color coordinating, like all of it. So go lay down, please, I guess. So module 2's like reflection moment. Obviously I've got the titles of like mom, daughter, sister, friend, like all of these things, right? But there are things a lot of people don't know unless you know me. Like, so through junior high and high school, most of my childhood memories are spent going and seeing my biological dad in prison. And prison, county jail, like you name it, if it's a correctional institute, I was going and seeing my biological dad there. That is what my childhood was. My grandmother raised me my whole life. Well, most of my life, I guess I should say. Outside of my visitations with my mom. And my 3rd grade year, my grandmother and I moved in with my aunt and my uncle. Now, prior to moving in with my aunt and my uncle, I thought they were like some of the coolest people in the world. Like, they had all these cool things and this and that, and the other, right? Well, fast forward to when we moved in with them, things were fine for a while. Like, things were great for a while. Until it turned into, and I didn't notice it until much farther into like my adulthood years, and even like part of my high school years. But I started seeing like, and this I didn't notice until I was much further into my adulthood years, but it's almost like my aunt was like reliving her childhood years through me, if that makes any sense. Like, I was the quote unquote daughter she didn't have, but when I needed her, she wasn't there, sort of thing. So, which that's a whole nother story in and of itself. So, let me just share what I've got wrote here, okay? I mentioned most of my childhood years are spent seeing my biological dad in prison, and I like to think those big pieces I've experienced make me very resilient and strong. In high school, I watched the woman that raised me, which was my grandmother, battle cancer for 9 months, and I sat beside her bed during my Christmas break at the hospital. At the time, we were told that we would be lucky if she made it to Christmas. She went into the hospital early December 7th, actually, and we were told we'd be lucky if she made it to Christmas. She made it 9 more months after that. I got called out of school to go up to the hospital, actually, and tell her that it was okay to let go and that it was okay to go on to hospice, and that I needed to be the one to tell her that it was okay to go on hospice. That single-handedly, like my junior year of high school, saying that, like, that was one of the hardest experiences I've ever had to do in my life, and I do not wish that on anybody. Also, my junior year, throughout junior high and high school, I guess you could say I was experimenting. I dated a couple girls through junior high, some that have become very close friends, and dated a couple guys, but for the most part, I didn't really, like, have long-term relationships until well into my high school years. That being said, my junior year, well, my 10th grade year, I dated a guy that was the guy that I lost my virginity to. Also, ended up getting into my first. My older kids' dad and I were very off and on. He was not my first, but my older kids' dad was. We dated off and on throughout high school. So the first time we dated would have been my 10th grade year. I dated him after I dated the guy that was my first. And then my 11th grade year, I started dating a girl. Her name was, actually, I'm not going to say her name, because that's not fair to her. But I ended up dating a girl, good friends with a cousin of mine who is very open and honest lesbian, probably one of the coolest people that I know, and one of the funnest people to hang out with, for the record. I wish we were closer than what we are. Her and her sister, honestly. But needless to say, ended up going to prom with this girl. We went to Casper and set it up so that I could see my siblings that live there and stuff like that too, and went and picked out my prom dress and this, that, and the other, had lunch with my siblings, like, all these things, and when we were leaving, we were walking out to our vehicles. Obviously, my cousin was there with the girl that I went to prom with, along with, I think the girl that my cousin was going to prom with was also there that day, if I remember correctly. And when we were leaving, my aunt and my grandma went to my grandma's vehicle, and then I walked with my cousin and the girl that I was actually dating at the time to the vehicle they had drove. My aunt was apparently looking in the rearview mirror and seeing that me and this girl had kissed, and immediately it was like I was getting shunned. Like, she was immediately told me that there was something wrong with me, that I need to go see a counselor, that I need to go into therapy, like, blaming my biological dad for all this stuff, like, very much painting this picture that this path was unacceptable and that I needed to stick to the path that she wanted for me. Also, to continue, she told me that this was a choice that my grandma would not be accepting of, and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Well, my mom and my dad had met this girl. Like, she'd come over to my parents' house and stuff like that, and we'd hung out. She had taken we had loaded my brother's bike up into the bed of her truck and taken him to the park. Like, my mom knew her, my mom was okay with her, my dad knew her, my dad was okay with her, my mom, my dad both knew that I was dating her. My mom, my stepdad, I guess I should say. Very much different, like, very different vibes. At the time, I wasn't living with my mom and my stepdad, so it was one of those things that I very much had to, like, it was just complicated. And again, like, living with my aunt and my uncle, and they were my legal guardians at the time, and knowing that my aunt was very unaccepting of it, and she was very open and honest about being unaccepting of it, really just made it hard. So me and a friend of mine cooked up this plan to make sure I got to go to prom with her. So we worked around all these hoops and turns and everything else so that it could happen, and ended up going to dinner before prom, and ended up going to prom together. Like, all of these things, like, it all ended up working out. All ended up going to prom with her. We weren't at prom for very long before we left because we were just bored of it. and went to the house of a woman that I actually didn't know at the time knew me in like my younger years because she knew my biological dad. Later on down the road, her and my biological dad ended up getting together. Before my biological dad and her got married, she was very accepted. Like, I felt very accepted by her, as like another daughter, to the point that we called her mom, like she was mom. But then after they got married, the entire perception changed. So, needless to say, after prom, went over to her house. We pulled her son and I, who I used to be very close with, pulled every single bobby pin that was in my hair out. Came out to like well over 100 bobby pins. I had this like French curl bun thing in my hair. Like, oh yeah. Pulled every single bobby pin out of my hair and changed out of my dress and into something more comfortable and everything else. So we hung out there for a little while, and after that we went over to her house and watched movies and ended up passing out for a little while. And this, that, and the other. And again, like I said, she put me in counseling, very much made sure the counselor knew, like, that I felt was like this because of my dad, like it was my dad's fault, that it was unaccepting, and that all this stuff. So there was that. Fast forward to 2024 to now, which is early 2026. It's been a very much of a learning who I am and finding who I am, I guess you could say. And I've actually had many, many discussions with my mom and my stepdad on this topic. And my stepdad is actually voiced. We were sitting outside one night during the fire pit. And again, like I said, my dad and my mom had both met this woman. And they both thought she was cool. My dad would tell you a million times that she's the coolest person I've ever dated. And he's accepting of her and this, that, and the other. Well, we were sitting at the fire pit one night and he told me that when I was with this person, that I was at the happiest I've ever been with. No matter what man, quote unquote man, I've been with, being with this woman is when I was at my happiest. And it's just kind of ironic because now, obviously, we're not together. I would never change having my kids for anything. I love my kids, even if I do have a small baseball team, a small army of them. I love every single one of them, and I wouldn't change having my kids for the world. It's just the irony of realizing the path that I steered down was very much shaped by the experiences I had growing up, and would explain why very much of my life was spent looking in the mirror, asking myself, like, why am I even, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what path, what am I supposed to, I didn't know who I was. I didn't get a chance to really kind of explore who I was and know who I was outside of what these people wanted. Like, it was very much, you get married, you marry someone of the opposite gender, you have kids, you go to college, you do all these things, right? And it just, a lot, and that's shaped by the people that I was raised by. Obviously, when I moved out of their house, I definitely steered away from the path that they wanted me on, because I didn't go to college. I'm going to college now, double digits down the road, I am, but I'm also doing it as a single mom, raising my kids, and all of these things, and building a business on top of it all, like, so it's just the irony of being able to see, like, the way life experiences and the people that you grew up with shape who you are as a person. Like, so that's my reflection moment for the night.